Hi, everyone. Sheila Butler with Successful Women Talk. I am super excited to be here with you today. And today on the show, I am talking with Erika Napoletano. Now, you probably know of who she is. She's amazing. She is an author. She's a consultant. She's a brand strategist. She's a bit of a firecracker. I love her. And I can't wait for you to see the episode with her. Listen to some of her points on being vulnerable, authenticity, and being the power of being unpopular. So I can't wait for you to hear more about her story. You will notice at the front of the interview, there's a little bit of sound issues on her end. We fixed that about 2 minutes in, so bear with me just a few minutes while we have some sound issues. We correct that, and everything's okay, and it is actually a really excellent interview. So tune in, and I will see you on the other side of the interview. Hi, everyone. Sheila Butler with Successful Women Talk. I want to say thanks so much for joining me today. I am super excited today. We have a real firecracker on the show. We have Erika Napoletano, and she is the redhead at RHW Media, where she does, it's a brand strategy firm. She is an author, a speaker, a brand strategist, and I can't wait to chat a little more with her. So hi, Erika.
Hey, how are you doing, Sheila? Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we started recording, I said, I loved your book. We'll talk about that. Before we jump into that, though, I think people love to know a little bit of a backstory. So a little bit about you, I know you have a lot of experience, but what kind of got you to where you are today? How did you get so brave and bold?
Well, I'm a hooker.
I love it.
Aren't we all in some way or another?
Some way.
But, I could give you the long story, but I'll give you a short story. I've always been the quirky girl who says exactly the wrong thing at just the right time. And I've changed that into a career where I get paid to tell people exactly what I think, and my thoughts help get people unstuck. I work with people ranging from entrepreneurs to major corporations who are having some sort of marketing, brand, or strategy problem. And I come in, I get to be the unpopular voice, shake things up, not gratuitously, but to make sure that, one, that the problem that they're solving is the problem that needs solving, and two, to understand how to get them from where they are to as efficiently as possible.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I've read your book. So were you, I think you kind of said you were a little bit of you were very smart, what you would consider probably not one of the popular kids, but were you always, even as a young person, I know you said you've always have a way of just saying the wrong thing at the wrong thing at the right time. What about, have you always been that way? Have you always just been able to go, okay, this is me. This is who I am?
When I'm being funny, when I just let those quips rip, that is 100% who I am. And there were years where I wasn't that person. That person came out a little bit, but I had put myself in situations where it wasn't welcome. Yeah. It was frowned upon. It was, I was told in no one's, I was fired because of it. I had people think it was okay to say really lewd and lascivious things about me in the workplace, when it came to those things. But, I didn't always have that permission. So part of my journey and part of the story about being unpopular is it's not a why I got picked last for kickball story. It's, and it's not about being unpopular. It's about taking the steps that allow you to make that next unpopular decision, because they're hard. And with all the things that we have to deal with in life every day, those unpopular decisions take a lot of our energy. And if we are spending all of our energy trying to be someone we're not, how are we going to be able to make the decisions that are best for us? We make the decisions that are easiest, which aren't necessarily the best ones.
I love that. And, it is hard because, as we all know, it's sometimes easier just to conform, right? It's sometimes easier to follow, to want to be accepted. Although, as you...
But it's not easier. But it's not easier at all. It's actually a shit ton of work to try to follow the herd and be someone you're not. I call it putting on a meat suit. Yeah. When you wake up every morning and you have to put on a meat suit, that's, did you ever see the movie Men in Black?
Yes.
Okay, when the alien came down and he had an Edgar suit on, and he goes walking around town, Vincent D'Onofrio's in this Edgar suit. Yep. That's what it's like to try to be somebody else. It's completely unnatural. You lose your story, and it's no wonder that we can't be honest with ourselves or anybody else about who we really are, because we're spending all of our energy toting this meat suit around. And you know what? Honestly, not even Lady Gaga looked good in that thing.
Good point. And you know, I have to agree, because I will say that until I got into my late 30s, I really never was comfortable with myself. So most people automatically assume that I'm married, and I'm not. I have a partner of now 15 years, but it took me most of my life to ever get to the point to be comfortable, because I didn't want to be judged. I was afraid my clients wouldn't want to be my clients. It took a long time to be comfortable. And it was, like you said, to be real honest, it was harder being someone else.
Let me ask you this. You just brought up a great point. You've had a partner now for 15 years. Are you anybody except exactly who you are around your partner?
No, I'm that same person. And what's funny is when I isolated myself from a lot of those people from when I was younger, when I finally became me and put myself out there again, they're like, we don't care what you do. We like you for who you are, and that's all that matters. And it has been so much easier for me. And if that just helps one person, even in business, it's the same way. If you are who you are, everyone else is taken.
Exactly.
You. Yeah.
Exactly. You were designed, every one of us at birth was designed to be exactly who we are.
Yep.
You know, I look at all of the work I do, whether it's a speaking engagement, whether it's a consulting session, whether it's a long-term client project, whether it's performing in some way. The message I want on the other side of that is that I'm helping the audience I'm in front of become that next better version of themselves. Yeah. Because we're all works in progress. You know, humanity is, even though sometimes it's really easy to lose faith in it, it's a journey. It's not a destination. The thing that I can hope is that tomorrow I wake up and I am just incrementally a better version of myself. And I have people, mentors, coaches, colleagues in my life who help me become that person as well. And, you know, the thing that annoys me the most is, well, it used to annoy me. I used to think about the 17 years of my life that I spent being everybody except who I am. I lived everybody else's shoulds instead of my musts, those things that eat at your gut and they keep you up at night in the best possible way because you can't stop thinking about them, because they make your heart race and they make your brain move in a good way, and you're thinking about what if instead of, oh shit. And I used to look at all of that time with regret, and now I look at it as, oh my God, that shit is funny. I have so much material for my keynotes, for my clients, for blog posts. I mean, if you can look at your life with a sense of humor, it helps you take the people who are less than accepting of who you are with like a whole shaker of salt, like a salt lick they would leave out in the forest for a deer. Yep. You know, let those people lick on that and go about the business of being who you are. I don't regret a single year of it, and it's pretty cool to look back now and go, oh, dang, that was stupid. Why'd I do that? That was exhausting. Now I'm like, I wake up every day. I'm exactly who I am. I work with people who are coming to love who they are and want to be that next better version. And can you not tell me that I have the coolest job in the world?
I think you might. Yeah. I think that's so important, because being comfortable with who we are, even in business. So it's like you said earlier, it's your whole being is not about, and your whole message is not about just being unpopular. That's not really what it is. It's about being yourself and differentiating yourself. And in some people's eyes, they're not gonna like you.
No,
that's great.
One of my audience members, next week, I'm going to be on one of Guy Kawasaki's Google Plus Hangouts. And he had posted my TEDx talk, and somebody came in and made just this really nasty comment saying, you know, how could Guy, as the author of a book called Enchantment, post such a mean and hateful rant? How could post a talk by such a mean and selfish person? And I was like,
me?
You know, I've been called a lot of things, but mean and selfish aren't two of them. And one of my audience members came in and gave me the best quote. It's from Anthony Bourdain, who is one of my favorite personalities in the world, just because he has no filter, just like I do, just like I lack. And he said, you know what? This bus is going to make a lot of stops, and I don't expect you to like all of them. I love that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of quotes, but that kind of sums it up. You know, when you come into somebody's world, whether it's your partner, whether it's your business colleague, maybe it's your co-founder, your spouse, your best friend, even your not so best friends, you take those people for everything they are and everything they're not. And you buy a package. You buy a package. You don't buy people a la carte. And I think that's where we get into trouble, thinking that we can just change one thing about ourselves. Stop trying to change that one thing. Figure out the life that you want to live, the business that you want to run, and the audiences that you want to serve, and build that business and build that life to serve those people, because that's coming from a place of that's what's important to me.
Right.
And I want to work with people where it's of equal importance.
I love that. You know, a lot of people think I need to be real general because I will get more clients. But we all know that that's not really the way it works. Although it sounds easy, it just doesn't work that way.
No. Think about when you were dating and before you met your partner, and think about someone you'd gone out on a date with, and you go, you're at home on a Friday afternoon. You're like, I don't have any plans tonight. Oh, God, you know who I'm going to call? That person I went out with on Tuesday, and I can't remember their name. They were kind of meh. No, that shit never happens. People don't call meh back. They call back the girl who spilled the drink on herself, and she said the funniest thing, and then I love the way she giggled. They call the guy back who just cracked a joke at just the right time and held the car door open, because it's like a lost art these days. But they call people back who are themselves, and they're remarkable. And that doesn't come from standing in the middle of the road. And the only thing that happens in the middle of the road is roadkill.
Yep.
So if that's what you want to be, when you pick a lane, you can accelerate. But when you're stuck in the middle trying to dodge traffic, I don't want to offend anybody, you're going to get smacked.
Yeah.
So
several
pick
times.
a lane, hit the gas, and go.
Yeah. And pick a side, right? I love that in your book you said something about like 99% of people don't really understand their secret sauce. And to be really successful, you've got to understand what your secret sauce is. How does someone find it if they're not really sure? I think some of us know, but...
Well, I think one of the most fun ways to figure out your secret sauce is to ask your friends. Go into, as generic as it sounds, go into something like Poll Daddy or Survey Monkey and create some questions like, how would you describe Erika to other people? What do you consider to be Erika's best qualities? What does Erika do that nobody else does? Ask some. There's like this piece of fluff floating around in my house. I'm like,
so she's not crazy. It is really something's really
no, I'm not on an acid flashback. That was years ago. But you ask the honest questions, and you will be amazed at the information people give you. I do this on my Facebook page for Redhead Writing, my Redhead Writing community, all the time. I'm like, why do you subscribe to my blog? If you just get it here and you don't email subscribe, why? What do you love about this community? What keeps you coming back? Because I want to make sure that those are the things that I keep doing, because I'm the one who did them in the first place, but they're the one who makes them a success. So when you take a minute to ask the blunt questions, the results are going to astound you. I've seen multiple colleagues of mine, without even my suggestions, send me polls like that. And I love responding to them, because I'm like, oh my God, she does that thing. It's just, it gets me so excited. And I can't wait to tell her what I love about her. And polls like that here's what people are afraid of. This is what some of my clients have asked. Well, if I do that, they're going to tell me things that I don't want to hear, and they're going to be really hard to swallow. I'm like, well, then don't write that survey. Talk about, what are the things you love about hanging out with Sheila? Yeah. What are the things that Sheila does that nobody else does that makes you smile? Ask those questions. It's your, don't put the question there. If you could improve one thing about Sheila, what would it be? You know what? It would be this. Yeah. It was, I don't care about that. I want to know why you keep coming back and why you call me your friend. Yeah. That's the important information to me.
You know what I also like about that, because I've done that exercise as well. And, you know, it's like taking your skill set. Sometimes you take those for granted, right? You think everyone else has the same skill set. So it's the same thing maybe like with what you said with humor. Maybe, you know, some people are afraid to use humor in business because they think it's not appropriate. But I think when you find that people really like those things about you, and those are things you really like to do, like I like to be funny and have fun. Well, when I did that survey, people said that. It makes you feel honest. I trust you more. You're funny. I think you have to use those things.
Yeah. I mean, when you take on every conversation, every exchange from exactly who you are and where you are, that sounds kind of hippy dippy, I know, but think of a point in your career. Everybody watching this podcast, including you, Sheila, think of a point in your career where you were in a meeting and you had something to say that you knew was probably going to go over like a fart in a spacesuit. And it makes you uncomfortable because one of two things is going to happen. It's going to go over like a fart in a spacesuit, and they're going to take you out behind the building and shoot you with a firing squad. Or it's going to go over like a fart in a spacesuit, and you live. The firing squad thing never happens. You know, if you're coming from a place of honesty and a place of, I'm sorry, I'm like itchy today. My bangs are falling in my face. If you're coming at a situation from, I want to make this better, I'm looking for solutions, then giving yourself permission, that's what it feels like to start every conversation from where you are and exactly who you are. Yeah, I agree. Well, let me ask you this. How does someone, I mean, you probably have a lot of people, how does someone really get unstuck? So if someone had some advice, they go, you know, I can't decide if I want to do this or that, I'm just sort of stuck. What's maybe a couple of tips you would give somebody to maybe help them through that process? Well, part of what I do with my clients is I break it down into small attainable goals. And I have one-on-one consulting sessions called Buy Me Coffee, where it's a dedicated hour with me. And we sit down and we solve either one or a very focused set of problems. So some of the things that I ask them to do is, when you have this hour, what exactly is it that you would like to have accomplished by the end of this hour? And some people write me a novella. And other people I need to get this knocked out. So that helps me from the outside figure out, is this a big problem or the small problem? And is this the right problem we need to be solving? The other tip that I would give people if they're feeling stuck is think about whether you own your worth. Okay. Do you own that you have a worth and that you matter? Your opinions, your heart, your life experiences, your accomplishments, your ridiculous failures, all of that creates your worth, and it's why you matter. And it's easy to forget that we each have a story, and that story contributes to the bigger things. So a lot of times I have consulting sessions with brands and people alike who seem to have lost their story. And they've forgotten where they fit in the grand scheme of things and the change that they can affect. So have you forgotten your worth? Because it's really important. And if you have forgotten your worth, you know what? I'm going to be the first person there who's like your cheerleader in the background going, all right, start laying it on me. Why do you matter? And by the end of a call, what I love hearing is a client on the other side going, yeah, okay. Because a lot of people come in, it's like, well, I don't know why somebody would want to listen to anything I had to say. Well, tell me about yourself. How did you start doing this? How many years have you spent doing it? What did you do? How did what you did that? And they've laid out this yards long CV for me without even realizing it. And I was like, I'm listening. That's pretty cool shit. And anybody who doesn't think that's pretty cool shit probably isn't your target demographic. So can we stop talking about why people wouldn't want to listen to you? Because that's kind of a given. They want to. You just have to start talking. And to hear somebody on the other end of the phone be like, yeah, I can do this. I rock. I got some street cred. And I'm back there, with the hip hop girls being their background dancers. So
I love that.
That's the exciting part, I think. That's the exciting part about getting unstuck.
I think it's fun because sometimes it is just hearing it from somebody else. Like we think it, like I think we know kind of what we're good at, but we doubt ourselves so much. And so
we do.
Yeah, we do.
We are professional saboteurs.
I love that.
We will screw ourselves and discount ourselves at the blink of an eye. And the most important thing for me is to have people in my life that call me on that bullshit. They're like, Erika, that thing, are we doing this again? I'm like, oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, I still think I suck. And they're like, all right, keep thinking you suck. Next.
You do. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's like, while you're having your pity party, we'll be over here getting shit done. And I'm like, oh, I want to be over there getting shit done. So I go on and get shit done and then leave the pity party behind.
Well, let me ask you this. I loved your book. I know you're a great writer in general. How tough was it or how easy was it for you to write a book? And what was your process? Like, are you an organized person, like a productive person? So how did that whole process go for you?
My organizational skills rank roughly between trash day and shit show. So sitting down to write a book, having always been a writer, I was stoked to have the chance to write a book. I wrote 2 books in 1 year, which I do not recommend to anyone, especially if you want to come out on the other side, like not addicted to substances and stuff. This is why Hemingway drank. I swear to God.
Probably so. I'm just going to hold this up. So
by no means am I Hemingway. But it was a very foreign process for me because when I sit down to write a blog post, it's an issue that is burning in my mind. And I vomit onto the keyboard. I take a single edit pass and I will always hit publish and there will be a typo in that son of a bitch. My audience always emails me or direct messages me, hey, 3rd paragraph, you there and there, confused. I'm like, oh my God. But the whole book writing process was very foreign to me. And I wouldn't change having gone through it for the world. But you got to really know what you want to get out of that book. I mean, for me, it was the way to start a conversation and to get in front of audiences that I couldn't necessarily have gotten in front of if I'd gone the self-publishing route.
Right.
And because I have some sort of knack with words and I had an audience, it helped with sales. But, the 2 tips I would give anybody thinking about writing a book are, number 1, you're never going to get rich from it. And considering you can buy the New York Times bestseller list for anywhere between 100 and 150 grand, it changes the way you think about having a bestseller. So, and it's not an organic process anymore. It's not on the merits of the book. An author can go in and buy that. So 2 is you're never going to get rich on it, ever. It should be looked at as a credibility tool. And think about the benefits for a lot of audiences. If you're writing for your very specific audience, think about the benefits of self-publishing. I am very fortunate that I had 2 wonderful publishers with a broad reach. But, business books, especially these days, are short-lived things. They spend about 3 months on publicity for your book, and then you're done. Yeah. Then everything is up to you. Everything's up to you before and everything's up to you after. So, you're never going to get rich, and change the way you think about having a bestseller because it's a lot of work for a pretty mediocre financial return.
Absolutely. If you were going to do it again, and you may or may not, would you do traditional or self-publishing?
It would depend on the subject that I was writing for or writing about and the audience that I was publishing for. Gotcha. And we'll have to wait and see because, the 2 books out there, my audience is growing. I'm, a lot of what I do is lifestyle type stuff, and it's not necessarily just for a business audience. So we're making that shift in my branding as well. So I'll probably never write another business book, but I would definitely look at the process of writing another book if it was something that was really important to me.
Gotcha. Well, if you have not read The Power of Unpopular, a guide to building a brand and an audience Hold on. A Guide to Building the Brand for an Audience Who Will Love You and Why No One Else Matters. I really, really, really love the book. And as a matter of fact, when I was preparing for this interview, I was going back through it and I was saying to myself, I need to read this again because it's a no BS approach to business, which I love. So I love.
Thanks. You can. It even comes in. It comes in iPad, Kindle. It comes in hardback.
I have it here on mine. I'm going to show it.
It's got a picture of me on the back. Look at that.
Yeah, I love. It does look like you. I really, really,
and it's got sheep on it.
Yeah,
it's got
a terrific
sheep.
Terrific. It's a great book. You guys should read it if you haven't. But let me ask you this: are you when you write? So you said it's an easy process for you to write. You were always just a really good writer? Comes easy.
I would not. I would never say that I've always been a good writer. I would say that I have always been interested in writing and tried to develop better storytelling skills. So,
which you're great at. And I think that's the difference. I think that's a really, really great skill set. One quick question I want to ask you also, what about your TEDx talk? So you were really, if you haven't seen it, I will link that up in the show notes as well, but really good. Are you a natural speaker? I mean, does it come naturally? I like speaking once I get up there, but I'm sick right before. I'm like physically ill right before I get up. How about you?
It may not surprise you to hear that I have a college degree in theater. And I was a professional actor for a while, and that doesn't mean waitress. I did a lot of commercial work when I lived in San Diego and Los Angeles. And the TEDx talk is the most honest performance I've ever given in my life.
It was awesome.
It was, we were confirmed as speakers in July. And that presentation was September 22nd. I was also on the road for 21 days prior to TEDx. And I spent maybe 72 hours at home during that whole 21 days. So the prep process was brutal. We tore my talk apart on September 10th and 11th and totally rebuilt it from messaging to slides, everything. So I had 11 days to create the talk that you see on YouTube today. And I don't recommend that for anyone either. That is some bullshit. But I think the reason that it turned out to be so well received, and I'm very grateful for that. I think the reason that it was so well received is because that's me. That's exactly what I believe. And it's not for everybody. And there are things I say in there about being polite and why it keeps us from getting done what we need getting done. And that I don't believe that most people are in my life for the long haul, and that they come in and they give me what they're supposed to give me, and then they leave to someone else's life, which is where they belong. And a lot of people have come back and said that, well, that's a really shitty way to look at things. I'm like, why? I've come through a lot of people's lives, and I wasn't meant to stay there for the long term. What I can hope is that I made their life better, or at least different after I'd come through it. But it was a life-changing experience for me. I've booked a lot of other, speaking engagements from it. I'm working on my next big idea talk, and that actually came to fruition yesterday, where I think anybody who gives a talk like that has what I call a shattering. You have a moment where you're so honest with yourself about things you hadn't been honest with before. And it's part of what shapes you. I mean, I spent 4 hours yesterday morning writing that manifesto. And I sent it to my speaking coach. I have a speaking coach. I work at this. I sent it to my speaking coach, and I'm like, let me know if you need me to pay for meal delivery, because this is 11 pages long with pictures. To bare your soul like that, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. So if there are any speakers in my audience today, be vulnerable. That's what people want to see, because they identify with people who have feelings just like them. They don't like being talked at. They like being talked with.
And that's the big difference. It connects with your heart, and it connects with your soul and being of who you are, which it makes it a whole difference.
And it's scary.
Yeah.
Fucking
But yeah. I will link up your website, your books, and your talk. Erika, I appreciate you. If someone wanted to connect with you, where would you want to send them?
Head on over to erikanapoletano.com. It's a mouthful, but once you type it into your browser, it's in your history. So you can just type ERI. And as long as you're not looking for, somebody naked named Aaron, I think you'll be fine. So, just explain that, I have a filthy mouth and I'm not porn, but I create intellectual porn to your wife if she's looking at your computer. But erikanapoletano.com is a great place to find me. You can also find me on YouTube at Redhead Writing. And very soon to launch, there is a new YouTube series coming out, started by me, called Useful Shit. Because there is enough useless shit on the internet these days. And I'm here to give you all the information you need to know in 3-minute segments or less.
I love it. I have to say that I did see your YouTube video recently about the Abercrombie and Fitch.
He's a precious guy, isn't he? I got a lot of flack for that by saying he should be. And people I got a lot of flack for people saying that, or calling me all sorts of names for saying, I'm glad he came out and said what he believes so I can vote with my wallet.
Yep.
They're like, would you say the same if he said the same against black people or women? I'm like, absolutely. At least he's being a douche out in the open and he's not a secret douche.
A lot of people are saying the same thing about, like, I can't believe you would ever eat at Chick-fil-A. Or, it's a private company. They can do what they want. It doesn't mean I have to ever shop there again. Right. That's the difference. We have a choice in life.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. The last point I want to make, and I know we're at the end of our time, is there are two kinds of people in this life. There are yellers and there are doers. Yellers will never do. They just like to rah, 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 especially around election time. And doers, while they may yell, they're going to give you solutions with it. So I seek out the doers. Who's going to present a emotional argument? Who's going to hit me where it hurts and offer me solutions on how to make things better? I like the doers. And if believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I'm very much an introvert. And if you haven't read the book called Quiet, if you're a fellow introvert watching this.
I have that in my list. I have it actually sitting here on my desk.
I highly recommend it because it talks about how somebody with a not seemingly so outgoing personality who finds their energy and that time spent alone, how you can be just as effective in the workplace, and how society needs to shift the way they think about people who aren't as loud. And that doesn't mean that you're not a doer. I know I'm an introvert and I'm very much a doer. So think about the two types of people in your life and the categories that they fall into. There's never anybody in the middle. That's the meh category again.
Yeah.
Yellers, doers, meh. Get out of the meh.
Love that.
One or the other.
It's funny because I love that you say that, and I love that you talk about vulnerability, because I do read a lot of business books and social media stuff, but I'm making myself read some stuff recently on Buddhism, and it's opening my eyes to seeing that, the world's a big place, and there are a lot of differences out there that we need to deal with, and we need to be open-minded. I love it. It helps me be a better me.
When you put into the perspective of everything you do affects the world around you, if you think that sounds hippy-dippy, that's what you might think. But it really does change the way you look at your interactions, your actions, and how they affect the world around us. And I'm a continuous student of that, and it's pretty freaking cool.
I agree. Erika, you're very inspiring. I appreciate your time.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And thank you guys for anybody who's watching for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Erika.
Bye.
The world needs you, so don't underestimate your greatness. If you liked today's episode, you can spread the word by using the share buttons on the side. And if you want to learn how to simplify your life and your business, join the community and get our free updates directly to your inbox.